What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me for Week 2's edition of the recap and preview. Before we get started, I just want to point out, I know there's like a horrendous glare. I'm not sure if Christy changed the light bulbs or what. I'm working on it. Hopefully I'll have that figured out before next week. So we're just going to get to it. Want to start off, as always, by thanking partners of the show. I want to reach out to Cuddy Eats. Once again, that's youtube.com/Cuddy Eats. Drops a new video every Saturday. Really great about putting out new content. He interacts a lot with his audience. Just really great guy. Really think everybody should check that out. Tell your friends about it. Bring them to the show. Talk about what we're doing here and how they won't care at all, but they should still watch the videos anyways and give me more views, get me a little exposure. I'm going to start putting out some other videos soon, different content. You guys should check that out when we get there. In the meantime, let's just jump into the fantasy football because the Titans are about to whoop up on the Jags in a few minutes, and I want to get downstairs and get that going. So let's jump into it here. So looking at last week, first game, I picked Blake. Blake destroyed me, so that's one in the win column. Going down to game 2, I did not pick Logan. It was a really close game, but it's gonna hurt. So Cole beat me on that one. That brings me to 1-1. Game 3, I picked Jonathan to beat Daniel. Not the case. I'm now 1-2. Picked Brandon. Brandon beat the pants out of Clint, so that's a good one for me. 2-2. I picked Dustin to beat Jeremy, brings it to 3-2, although it was a lot closer than I thought it was. I think last week I said that Jeremy's team wasn't going to put up hardly any points, put up a bunch. But that does bring me to 3-2. Final game, I picked Thomas, nearly 60 points there. So Matt's team didn't do horribly, but Thomas's team obviously did really, really well for the second week in a row. Brings me to 4-2. So I am currently at 67%. Well above not only the 500 that I said I would be, but the 600 that we agreed on. So as of now, 1 week in, you guys are buying me dinner. So let's break down each game. I'm probably just going to talk about a couple of things that were interesting to me looking at the week, and then we'll start talking about this week's games. So first, between me and Blake, first thing that jumps out at me is 46 fantasy points for New England against Miami. The strategy of just pick whoever's playing Miami definitely looks viable right now. They are horrendous. Other things on Blake's team that stand out, Dalvin Cook just went off for the second week. Definitely looks like he is going to be a stud. So that's definitely a great pickup for Blake. On my end, things that stand out, Drew Brees going down with injury. That's going to hurt me for the next few weeks. Do think I've got suitable replacement, but definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on moving forward. Nothing else that really jumps out at me from this one until we get to next week. Looking at Cole and Logan's team, so we'll start with Cole. Dak Prescott, as much as I hate it, he had another really, really good week in week 2. That's what happens when you play cupcake defenses so early in the year. They don't have anything figured out. Expect another big week from Dak in week 3, and then he'll start actually playing some real NFL teams, and that should drop off. Other things that are going to stand out, Deshaun Jackson is hurt for Philadelphia after a really exciting week 1. That looks like it is going to go back in the toilet, so sucks to be a Deshaun Jackson owner. Other things, though, that are really good for Cole, Kenny Golladay looked really, really solid in a pretty difficult matchup against the Chargers. And Jacoby Brissett looks more than competent leading that Indianapolis Colts offense. I think he's going to be pretty solid throughout the year. For Logan, Aaron Jones, I'm not really sure what to make of that. I don't think he's a very good running back, and the Packers typically don't have running backs that do well in fantasy. But he looks really good so far. Austin Eckler is the man. O.J. Howard, that really sucks. Matt Ryan, great quarterback, number 2. I'd probably plug him in over Stafford in most situations, which I believe is the case for week 3. So, good deal. Next game, looking at Daniel and Jonathan here. Things that jump out at me from Daniel's team. OBJ big 83-yard, I think, touchdown reception. So obviously that's pretty huge in getting a lot of points. Obviously enough to be the difference in this matchup. I do think he's going to have a career year with Baker throwing him the ball. Mark Andrews had a really big week. I think that was surprising to a lot of people. The Ravens offense has often featured tight ends, so that is something to keep an eye on moving forward. Other great news, Antonio Brown looked perfectly at home in the New England offense. Expect him to put up big numbers. Daniel's team is actually sitting really, really pretty right now. We'll see how it goes throughout the year. Looking at Jonathan's team, things that stand out to me, nothing that really jumps out. Russell Wilson, we expect him to have really good weeks like this on occasion. Most of the time, he's a pretty consistent fantasy performer. Saquon Barkley, he's in the top 1 or 2 fantasy running backs. That looks really, really good. Kirk Cousins is struggling. Here you go. Here's something that really is interesting. So John Ross, through 2 weeks of the season, leads receivers in yards. So that's pretty huge. It looks like he's going to be a really big focal point in Cincinnati's offense. And Andy Dalton is actually playing well. Even though the Bengals suck, he's throwing the ball well on occasion. He has a lot of yards. That's what happens when you play catch-up the whole time. Obviously, you get drubbed 17-41 by San Francisco. That's a problem, but definitely something to keep an eye on moving forward. For Brandon and Clint, looking at Brandon, Lamar Jackson has been killer for the first 2 weeks of the year. If he keeps up even half the production he's got, that's a huge win for Brandon. He got him quite late. I said he was bad because Brandon made the pick with no real backup plan. It's working out great for him, so can't argue with that. Coming over to Clint, obviously the one that stands out. Ben Roethlisberger out for the year. Hopefully it's not a career-ending injury. David Njoku broke his wrist. He's going to miss some more time. Injuries really taking its toll on Clint's team so far, already with Darius Geis on IR, Jordan Reed, the human injury, and Sam Darnold out with mono. So Clint's team is just devastated right now with injuries, and Marcus Mariota can't play quarterback. Next, we go to Dustin and Jeremy. So looking at Dustin's team, Aaron Rodgers had a good week. Julio Jones had a monster week. Travis Kelce's a monster. None of that overly surprising. In the starters, nothing that really stands out as I just look through his roster. It's more or less what we expected. I guess the big thing is Aaron Rodgers bouncing back. That's encouraging. Going to Jeremy's team, put up a lot better points, looked a lot more respectable this week. That's probably about what I would expect moving forward. Marquise Brown, great pickup. That should be really good. I think the Browns' defense is actually really good, even though they were just against the Jets. I think that they're really, really good. Peyton Barber is going to be the guy in Tampa Bay. I think that we'll see some consistent points from him, so I would consider featuring him in the starting lineup. Obviously, the Tyreek Hill injury is still devastating for Jeremy. Last game here is Thomas and Matt. Things that stand out for Matt is Cam Newton is not playing well, and rumors that he's going to be out this week due to an aggravated injury. But really just Cam Newton, everything about him right now is very problematic. The good news for Matt is that Josh Allen is just as good as Lamar Jackson at running the ball, it seems, and he's really just consistently putting up a lot of rushing yards. And so even though it was just against the Giants, I actually think Josh Allen could put up some consistent points as we go through the year. And Emmanuel Sanders is still the best receiver in Denver and had a great week. Definitely worth a consideration each week as like maybe a flex receiver. When we go to Thomas, so Patty Mahomes, huge numbers. That's actually expected, so I'm not really going to talk about that very much. What I do want to talk about is this guy right here, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin has looked like a monster for Tampa Bay, and I do think that he is going to be a huge part of their offense because Mike Evans is going to draw a lot of double and even triple teams, as we saw this past week. And when Jameis can get the ball out to him, Chris Godwin has shown an ability to make plays. I think that is going to be a big one. And Christian McCaffrey, so Thomas put up 150 points, and Christian McCaffrey had a bad week. So don't expect that to become, a trend. I think that that'll recover next week. So looking ahead to this week, we've got Logan playing me. Jonathan against Cole, Clint versus Blake, Jeremy versus Daniel, Thomas versus Brandon, and Matt versus Dustin. So we'll jump into the first matchup. It is going to be me versus Logan. If we just look down through the people here, you'll see that I've chosen to go with Jameis Winston instead of going against Baker Mayfield. That has everything to do with the matchup. So I like Jameis Winston to get against the New York Giants a lot better than I like Baker Mayfield against the Rams. Any other things that stand out to me? I put Cooper Kupp in over Josh Gordon. I think that Antonio Brown is going to hurt Josh Gordon's fantasy upside. Still don't have a replacement for Kenyon Drake. That looks like a disaster. Looking at Logan, he put Matt Ryan in at quarterback. I think that's definitely the move. Even against Indianapolis, I think that's still fine. He took Stephon Diggs out for Terry McLaurin. I don't know that I like that. I actually dislike it. I'll say I dislike it. I think Stephon Diggs is still the move, but I did what I told him. What he told me, rather. I'm going to pick me. I think that I have a better fantasy upside, even with Kenyon Drake. I think Mike Evans will get it going eventually. George Kittle's a monster. Tyrell Williams, I really, really like. So I'm going to go with me. I think the Jameis Winston pick pays off. Looking at Cole and Jonathan. So just looking at it, I do give Cole the advantage in quarterback, give him the advantage in running back. Not in wide receiver. I think Cole has better wide receivers. The tight end's kind of a wash. With Hunter Henry being out for Cole, I don't think either one of them is going to put up very good points. Actually, if Jonathan puts in Jared Cook, I think tight end will be a pro for Jonathan. Bills versus Cincy is a good matchup for him. Titans versus Jags, love that matchup. Kicker's a wash. I'm going to go with the advantage being to Cole. I like what Cole's team has done. He had monster points week 1. I think he has a huge fantasy upside. And, I mean, Dak Prescott's playing Miami. So, your quarterback's playing Miami, that's a lot of points. I like Cole. Looking here at Clint versus Blake, I'm going to have to go with Blake just because of what I said the last time. Without even really getting into the rosters that much, Clint's team is just devastated with injuries, man. He's just missing a lot of really key players from his draft. And he's down to, his third option on quarterback. And Mariota, I do think he'll play well tonight, but still he's not like a top-tier fantasy quarterback by any stretch of the imagination until a receiver shows an ability to catch touchdown passes. And honestly, Blake's team is pretty solid. I really like the decision to go with Jason Witten. He's already scored 2 touchdowns this year, and against Miami there should be plenty of touchdowns to be scored. I don't think that I would make any changes to his roster. I really, really like it a lot. Jeremy and Daniel. So like I said, Daniel's team I think is in a really, really strong position right now. Justin Jackson obviously still not the best fantasy option, but he's got a lot of talent in other places, especially really like Delaney Walker. Now I do think the Jags defense is not an ideal matchup tonight because the Titans have shown an ability to kind of grind you away. The Jags have issues, so I think that Derrick Henry can get some stuff going. That could be a problem. I would probably plug in Antonio Brown. You're against the Jets. He's probably going to play. I just really like the idea of putting Brown in there. I would probably put him in over Curtis Samuel. I like Curtis Samuel better than DJ Moore. Looking at Jeremy's team, really solid across the board, but not anything that really jumps out and wows me. I would probably put Peyton Barber into the game. But he's got 3 decent running backs in there. It's going to be hard to figure out where to go with that. He might be able to flip one of these running backs moving forward, but just looking at the matchups for now, I'm going to go with Daniel. I think Daniel's team will pull out the win this week. Then we've got Thomas and Brandon. Is that the last one? No, it's not. All right, so Thomas and Brandon. Looking at the teams, Thomas's team is just freaking stacked, dude. Like, they're just good across the board. I love everything. Demarcus Robinson is an interesting inclusion at flex, but I mean, he had a huge week, right? So who knows? Looking at the other options, maybe Greg Olsen. He had a pretty monster week, but I mean, honestly, the options are fine. If it comes down to your flex spot, I'll be surprised. Frank Gore's not a great fantasy running back, but he's been pretty solid so far. Devonta Freeman. I actually would probably play Leonard Fournette. I know we're against Tennessee, but I saw that Tennessee actually has the lowest tackle percentage of any team in the league. We missed 30% of our tackles. That's outrageous. So I would probably have played Leonard Fournette. Probably by the time you see this, it'll be too late, but that's probably what I would have gone with. Looking at Brandon's team, Lamar Jackson, love it. Even against Kansas City, it's going to be a shootout. You know Kansas City's going to put up points. Lamar Jackson should be throwing the ball. Kansas City's defense isn't too scary. I really like the pick there. Only thing that I would change is maybe Eric Ebron. I think Eric Ebron looked really strong, even though T.J. Hockenson has looked pretty good week 1. He didn't look as good week 2. But that said, I am going to pick Thomas. I think Thomas's team is just stronger top to bottom. Last game here is Matt versus Dustin. I think Matt's team is okay. Cam Newton's got to be swapped out. There's a lot of problems right now with Cam Newton's role in the offense, and he's coming off an injury. I would put Josh Allen in. I would probably try to plug Emmanuel Sanders in. Probably for John Brown if I had to make a pick. Love Todd Gurley, love Marlon Mack, love Adam Thielen. I think Jarvis Landry is going to get it going before too long. Like the team look. Looking at Dustin's team, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, very solid. Julio, Robert Woods, solid. Travis Kelce, solid. LaShawn McCoy, don't like it. Don't like LaShawn McCoy. Looking at his bench, though, not sure who I would play instead. But if flex, like I said, if flex is your biggest problem, you're doing okay. So I think Dustin's team is really, really solid. Matt's team is struggling in a lot of areas. I have to go with Dustin's team, even though I do think Matt has pretty solid options. The upside's just not quite as high. They have to really, really play well, whereas Dustin's team has just got to be more or less consistent. So just to quickly recap it, we'll just go to the scoreboard here. Blah, blah, blah. It's got to load. It takes forever. Sorry. All right, so I'm taking me over Logan. I'm taking Cole over Jonathan. I'm taking Blake over Clint. I'm taking who did I take in this one? I don't remember who I took on this one, but I'm taking whichever one. I think I said Daniel. I think I'm taking Daniel over Jeremy. I'm taking Thomas over Brandon. Until somebody beats Thomas, I'm taking Thomas every time. His team just has so much upside. And finally, I'm taking Dustin over Matt. I think Matt, his ceiling is just a little too low. So that's the picks. Dustin, Thomas, Daniel, Blake, Cole, me. All right. So that's it for this week. Once again, let me know if there's anything you want me to do a little differently. I will try to polish it up a little bit more. This is kind of done haphazardly. I was out of town. But next week, hopefully, it'll be a little more refined, and we'll get that going. So thanks, guys. Let me know what you think, and go Titans.